Welcome to The Friday Habit with Mark Labriola and Benjamin Manley. The Friday Habit is for small business owners, freelancers, and creatives who are ready to take their business to the next level. Join us as we discover how to apply the strategies we learned to grow our businesses, make more money, and live every day like it's Friday. And welcome to another Friday Habit. And we're here with a very special guest. There's always tech issues. You know, people think podcasting is easy, but it's not. There's always these curveballs. But hey, today we got Judah Taub with us, and Judah is the managing partner and co-founder of Hetz Ventures. He was recognized as one of Forbes 30 Under 30s in 2020, and he's also the author of How to Move Up When the Only Way is Down: Lessons from Artificial Intelligence for Overcoming Your Local Maximums. So, Judah, what's up, dude?
Good. I'm good. Very happy to be here.
Where are you at right now?
I am now in our offices at the heart of Tel Aviv.
Ah, okay. The heart of Tel Aviv. So you're out there just surviving. You got the Iron Dome just protecting you from whatever might happen during this podcast.
Yeah, tech is at the heart of a lot of things in Israel, and the Iron Dome is one of many.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, man, I'm so glad to have you on the show. And Ben, I think, is in Spain today, so he's closer to you than I am. But he's not joining us. But he was in Morocco, and now he's in Spain. He's just traveling the world with his family, living his best life. So. And, you know, he recently sold his business, so we're going to have to talk about that at some point. So you'll want to keep tuning in to hear about that. But, hey, you know, what caught me about your bio was this book. I guess my question to you is, what is local maximum?
Amazing. Great question. So
let's just start off with a softball. Because I've never heard that word before. And so I'm like, okay, I like this artificial intelligence stuff. And then this whole idea of, where do you go when the only way is down? Or how do you move up, when the only way is down? That's all confusing. So you got me in an open loop right now, and I'm ready to close some of these.
Amazing. So a local maximum is actually something that computer scientists and mathematicians will have heard in the past, but it's very simple to understand. Local maximum is a point where you're at the highest point in a mountain, but not the highest point in an entire field. So I'll give an example. Let's say Ben is now traveling in Morocco and he's in a desert there, and you call him up and say, Ben, I've got a challenge for you. Your goal is within, 10 hours to get to the highest altitude in the desert that you're currently in. Go. And Ben sets off and he sort of looks around, and before he knows it, he looks at one mountain that looks pretty big, and he starts hiking up the mountain, and he gets to the top of the mountain, and he feels really good about it because he's climbed a mountain that seems pretty big. And as he reaches the top, he looks over to the other side, and bummer, there is a much bigger mountain on the other side.
That and now plateau. Ben, you get there and you're like, I've made it. And then you look up and then there's the next mountain.
Yes, but this is more painful than a plateau. A plateau would have meant that now he stays at the same height for potentially a very long time or anything like that. He now knows there is a higher point. He knows he could, in theory, be at a better place. But the problem Ben now has is that any step he takes from the position he's in now at the top of this local maximum, not a global maximum, but a local maximum, will necessarily move him down. And it's obviously not just in mountain climbing in Morocco. It's businesses and individuals in their own lives when they're navigating whatever it is they're trying to achieve, when they are metaphorically trying to move up. sometimes you can find yourself in a position whereby there are better positions you could be in, but you're stuck in a situation where any individual step you take from where you are now will unfortunately, painfully be down, and you want to move up, but you're at a local maximum.
Yeah. So then how does an individual identify when they're stuck in a local maximum in their personal lives or their careers?
Amazing. So just big picture, step back for a moment. The point behind the book was that each of us in our own businesses, you mentioned small businesses, creators, in our own lives, sometimes even just personal lives, dating, sports, and we can go through some examples. We're trying to typically achieve something, and often we find ourselves trapped. Some people use terms like golden handcuffs, or am I even taking the right strategy, etc. And what I think is unique about the book is what I've tried to do is take tech ideas from the likes of Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, because these folks are constantly in their AI software programming running into local technical maximums. So they've spent billions of dollars coming up with techniques to try and overcome them. And what I've tried to do in the book in a non-technical way, using personal stories from different backgrounds and stories from around the world, to show people how you can use these same techniques that the likes of Amazon and Google use for their software in your own endeavors to, as you said, potentially recognize local maximums, build yourself, your business in a way so that you can eventually overcome them or recognize them early enough, or in the painful state, like metaphorically Ben reaches the very, very top of that mountain, it is not too painful, hopefully, when you reach that point to say, you know what, I'm going to go down, or I have built a bridge to go from this mountain to the better one behind.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, especially when you think about the billions and billions of dollars that these companies spend constantly trying to improve, trying to make things better, trying to solve problems. So why wouldn't we learn from them? And they're doing all the hard work, right? They're putting all the time. They have thousands of people in positions trying to solve problems, and they're spending all this money. And so we can kind of take cues from them. But then I guess the other question would be then, at what point does somebody do what's always been done and get sucked into that trap, opposed to like thinking outside the box differently, right? They're obviously, like in the music industry, it was like the record business always created records and CDs, and they sold, CDs, and then Apple came along and said, hey, what if you just bought a song for 99 cents? And then they kind of disrupted the whole industry because they weren't looking at the big dogs and how they did things, how they were successful, and how they made money. So, I mean, can you get caught in maybe always looking at these big guys and how they solve problems and get stuck into not innovating?
So 100%. So just picking up on 2 points that you mentioned. So the first one, which I 100% agree with, these large tech companies are spending billions of dollars. And I think the unique point that I'm trying to make is that, yes, we can benefit from Google spending billions of dollars to try and optimize their search, or Amazon spending billions to optimize their Prime delivery, and more and more of those examples. But there is a deeper way we can benefit from this. And that is they're coming up with also new ways of thinking that for the first time, we can try and say, you know what? That piece of software actually came up with a new idea that I can use the same way of thinking in my own world. For years and years, computers were using human logic to solve problems. The basics of computers are if, not, while, and. This is literally how computers were trained. And now with artificial intelligence, computers are coming up with really innovative ideas that for the first time, we humans can say, wait, maybe we can learn from the way computers are thinking. And so just to give one example and to pick up from where you left off, is often what we do in our own businesses, like you said, is we do A/B testing. So if you're a marketer or in the music industry, you're coming up with a new label and you're trying to think, what should I name my new song or album or whatever it is that I'm going to come out now with a new PR. I will try 2 different versions and see which one works better. and let's say to A versus B, and A is slightly better, then I will try A versus a different B. And now this time B was better. And slowly, I'm doing smaller and smaller increments of changes. This is what they call A/B testing, until eventually I get to one that I can't improve on anymore. Just going back to Ben on the mountains in Morocco, you can imagine what's happening here to the software in A/B testing. It's going A versus B, let's move a step up, a step up, a step up, a step up, until I can't with a single step improve my A/B testing anymore. Along comes Google, and by the way, this is how Google does a lot of its Google search. When you Google for something, it's saying, I don't want to get stuck in this local maximum. So what I will make sure that the software does in that fraction of a second is every so often do an X. Every so often in my A/B testing, in my new label that I'm about to release in my new music or whatever the title is, I'm not just going to do A/B testing with small increments. Every so often, I will throw in a completely different idea, a completely different version of the Google search response, and see how that one performs. And that way, I'm constantly making sure that I'm not just moving up this one mountain, but I'm slowly testing out other mountains that could be around us. So it's the way of thinking. This is one of roughly 8 to 10 techniques that software uses that I detail in the book, but we humans can use as well in our own businesses.
Yeah, and we've talked about kind of this before, is this, especially with ChatGTP, how you can start using that tool as almost like a partner, right? To bounce ideas off of, and to help you maybe articulate something that you're trying to articulate that you having a difficulty putting the right words to, and you can just kind of barf something in there and then it will spit something back out, and then you can kind of collaborate it with to fine tune it to exactly like what you're trying to achieve. And so I definitely see, the benefit of that. Have you ever used this with relationships? Can you have that local maximum in relationships?
100%. So, imagine somebody who's going on many, many, many dates with different potential partners. At what point should this individual stop being so picky and say, you know what, maybe I should settle down? If every time you think there's going to be a better mountain or a better partner or do you carry on searching forever for that X? Or do you say, actually, maybe the problem is with me? I'm not here to be a personal coach here, but you can see how there could be the individual who, the first person they meet, they say, this is the right mountain, I'm going to climb it, versus the person who never climbs ever a mountain and is just wandering around the base of all these different mountains in the Moroccan desert and never actually goes up any of them. I'm sure Ben's not that type or that, but metaphorically, and AI is grappling with this the whole time. And is learning how to optimize when you move up the mountain, when you start moving up the mountain but look at other mountains in parallel, when you just sprint up the mountain that's in front of you. And some of these learnings are really important to us in our own, whether it's small businesses, lives, or whatever we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Do you think there's any ethical considerations as far as using AI to solve human decision-making problems?
So what I am suggesting is not to have AI replace. I'm suggesting that AI can teach us to think in more creative ways. I'll give an example. There used to be folks who used to train for chess and other types of games competitions like Go, just individually playing games again and again and again and reading books on what is the best move. And today what folks do when they're training at the very high levels is they watch what the best computers sometimes do as the next move. Does it mean that has to be your move? No. But they have learnt that some of the computers are coming up with moves that even grandmasters would never have thought of. So I'm not here to say this is the move you have to do, but we're at a really unique point in time with technology where not looking at what the AI would suggest, not looking at that potential chess move, the potential move that AI would potentially suggest for your business, for your own endeavor, is unwise. And it could suggest new ideas, ways of thinking, and that could simply just help us succeed more often.
Yeah. I think that it definitely is the future. What are your thoughts about, and maybe you know more about this than I do, because I was under the impression that, AI was trained on human data, right? So it scours the internet, it learns everything it can, it reads every single book, it does all these things, and then it kind of just rearranges and regurgitates all those things that it's learned back to you, just in a more unique way. Can you maybe explain a little bit about how it actually works?
Yeah, so the deep learning that we're seeing today, the deeper the learning, so the more layers in these AI machines, the less it's going to just reshuffle the information, and the more it's actually able to think, as weird as it sounds, to think of new ideas itself. So I'll give it an example. In games, computer games, chess games, sometimes the AI will suggest moves that it never actually learnt. That means it wasn't fed, when this happens, do this, or this is a move that you should consider. No. It's just learnt so many chess games that it's actually understanding the rules and coming up with new ideas itself. I'll suggest something else which I think could be helpful. What I'm finding interesting is that the way AI is solving problems can teach us things about ourselves. I'll give another example. When you build your own business and you have to think about day-to-day trade-offs between, for example, CapEx and OpEx. Should I invest in this new machine or should I rent it? Should I qualify at university in a very sort of specific expertise, or should I take a broader aspect to my knowledge, career, etc.? These are regular day-to-day trade-offs that we're having to decide on whether we want to be more muscular versus more agile. And these are questions that businesses are going to continue to have to ask themselves, and they're ones that you don't always know the answer for a long time. And finding the optimum point is something that AI is now helping us understand better. And just to give an example on this, AI is pointing us to a direction which is the opposite of what a lot of corporations are taking. And that is saying that agility over long periods of time nearly always outperforms muscle. So if you imagine the guy at the gym who is constantly bench pressing, and you can imagine what that guy looks like, a bit like you and I. So very muscular,
Just ripped,
upper body.
just
Yeah,
yoked.
yeah. Exactly. So like very sort of big guy who could probably win every single day of the week as long as the game is bench pressing. And then there's the other guy who comes to the gym, same thing, a couple of times a week, etc., but is floating around doing flexibility, agility, stretching, and different types, etc. Now, as long as the game never ever changes and it's just this one type of competition, bench pressing, the first guy will win. But the second something happens and suddenly they need to pole vault, jump hurdles, pull-ups, or any other version of it, the second guy will very, very quickly outperform. And you mentioned sort of GPT earlier. If you look, or anybody who wants can Google this and see how many layers are in each of the GPTs, 1, 2, 3, 4, which typically correlates with muscle, and how many neurons it has, which typically correlates with agility, you will see that one of the things that the scientists are learning is that you want to increase your agility far more than you want to increase your muscle. Pretty quickly, the agile beats the muscle.
Right.
And you're starting to see what even optimum points of trade-off here is. And it's just a learning that, you know what, for years people were just like, well, I don't know, let me think about, should I buy the truck? Should I rent the truck? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should my organization chart be built this way or that way? And it's starting to spit out AI, these insights, which doesn't mean that we have to follow blindly, but it's showing us that the optimum point for different business decisions or career decisions might be very different to what we originally imagined. And in this case, AI suggests prioritizing agility far above muscle.
Do you think that AI itself could get stuck in a local maximum?
For sure. So
I mean,
let's talk
but then
about
how does machine learning address that problem?
Yeah, so AI is constantly getting stuck in different local maximums. So let's give a different example. I mentioned earlier the Amazon Prime, or literally you pick the big tech company, and chances are they are spending huge sums of money on trying to help their soft Walmart. They're trying to make sure that their recommendation engine, when you search for something on Walmart, same thing at Netflix, by the way, they're spending huge sums of money to try and help their software navigate out of local maximums. And if you go to their cutting edge scientists, they will tell you that they know that their software is often getting stuck in local maximums. But they're trying to make sure that they get stuck in much higher local maximums than the previous one. So we're going back to the desert where Ben is. There's now thousands of mountains. Previously, he was stuck on a mountain this big, and now they're able to make him navigate to a much higher local maximum. They're still spending capital on developing new techniques to get even to better places, but we've already progressed quite a lot. And so the goal that I had was to take the core, roughly 8 ideas, and to translate them like agility and muscle, like the ABX, and use sort of real day-to-day stories on how we can implement this into our own businesses.
So then how do you think leaders out there, business owners, how do you think we foster this environment to encourage taking calculated risks to move away from local maximums?
So honestly, it's really difficult. It's a way of thinking. So my privilege is that I work at a venture capital firm, and I sit on a variety of boards of cutting edge companies, and I get to speak to CEOs every evening who are debating these issues. And the commonality with all of them is most folks running businesses are literally dealing with the day-to-day, short-term, immediate challenges. And so you're waking up, you're putting out fires, you're trying to just get through the day, hire this individual, solve that person's problem, help that customer. And so as a board member for a lot of these startups, the privilege I have is to speak to them when they wind down, typically in the evenings, and they say, well, one second, are we even navigating in the right direction? Are we climbing the right mountain? Is there a fresh way of thinking that we should be implementing that could potentially completely change the landscape that we're operating in? And having these conversations brought me to the realization, especially given my background in technology, that we could actually learn from some of the new ideas that AI and software are using and implement it ourselves. I'm not saying it's easy, but the hope is that by, whether it's reading the book or hearing this podcast and getting a few ideas from it, or just researching by yourselves, some folks will open their mind to new techniques. So like the 2 we've mentioned so far, one, I would challenge most folks to ask themselves, not what could make me slightly better, like an A/B testing, is there an idea that I could test there that would completely change the landscape? We had, I think it was a few days ago, Elon Musk landing his rockets in a really sort of new breakthrough method.
Yeah, how crazy. Did you watch that video of that rocket coming back and landing right inside of that, basket? It was like,
yeah,
what the heck?
So Musk loves this. Everything with him is always X. I think he even called one of his kids X. It's SpaceX. It's X.com. It's always X. But he's actually saying ABX, not just with the letter X. Every step he takes is not, is there a small incremental improvement? It's, is there a wacky idea that may fail? It may fail, but is there a extreme idea that could dramatically improve the situation? And that's what he's testing. He's not looking for a rocket that will land at a cost that is 5% cheaper than NASA. He's looking for something that is 95% cheaper. And so one of the suggestions that I'm making in the book is when you think of an idea that you want to test, not every single time, but when you're trying things out, every so often in your process of thinking, you need to try not just a 5% sort of likely to succeed improvement, but a extreme X out there that could dramatically improve your outcome by taking you to a new mountain and not just moving you up on the current one.
Yeah. What how did you get involved in all this? Like what inspired you to even like write this book and kind of go down this rabbit hole?
For me, it's seeing, as I mentioned earlier, folks who are working round the clock, sometimes 12, sometimes 14, sometimes even 16 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And unfortunately, at the end of what could be many years of hard work, realizing in our analogy that they are at the top of a mountain, but not actually the one they most wanted to be on. And seeing that there are techniques out there that could really help individuals was really the main goal for me.
Yeah. And then what about business? I mean, 30 under 30, you know, that's a baller move right there. You know, you're out here doing your thing. Like what got you into business and you know, kind of got you on that path?
I am fortunate to do something that I enjoy. I started off beforehand at a hedge fund, and before that I was mainly doing data for the majority of my career. But today I get to do this with people, and I get to do this with people who are trying to change the way the world works, each in their own dimension. And when you see individuals who are really talented and giving basically their lives and careers to try and change something that they're passionate about, the part I'm passionate about is to try and help make that a reality. And in this particular case, it's helped them open up their minds to new possibilities. Yeah, I mean, I'll just give you one cute example, which is, so I talk in the book about the psychology of a local maximum. And sometimes you see individuals, I think you mentioned this earlier with your Apple versus some sort of streamers early on, or folks, and you see this, it's quite incredible how often the biggest local maximum we're in is our own minds. We don't imagine the possibility could be so much bigger.
Yeah.
And just one really cute example, I remember when I was in New York and I was sitting in a pizza shop, which was run by an Italian family. They all sort of, you could tell they moved from Italy. They were speaking a little bit of Italian between them, and the daughter was at the till, the father was behind, etc. You could see he was a bit older, and they were selling pizzas. But they also had a juice maker at the back, and customer after customer, I was sitting at the side on my laptop, and customer after customer, you could see the vast majority were coming in for the juice. And the strange thing is, it was, I can't remember what the name is, Tommy's Pizza, whatever the pizza it was. And I remember saying to the family that I was like, well, why don't you sell juices? And they said, no, what we do is we sell pizza. We're Italian. And you could literally see, like, the juice was the success, but they, in their minds, are Italian. And it's a tiny example. In the book, I detail a whole variety of other sort of ways of thinking here. But it just shows you that sometimes more difficult than climbing the mountain is in your own head realizing that the mountain could potentially be so much bigger than you currently see it.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners, they get caught in that trap of not being able to have a mindset, you know, that growth mindset where it's like a lot of times you do what you've always done, and you're afraid to maybe step out of your box or do something different because you're afraid that it might not work out, or you just don't even know what's possible. I know, you know, for me, when I first started doing, you know, business, I was just doing project type work. It was like, as projects would come and go, I would do that work. And then someone brought up this idea about instead of charging for your time, why don't you charge for the value that you provide back to that, customer? And for me, that was a huge like mind shift to say, oh, okay, like I can start to look at what I do as valuable and charge a premium back to somebody for that. And then instead of just charging per project, I can start putting people on retainers and providing value over a long period of time and increase our bottom line and workload and all those other kind of things. But before I had done that for a decade, I was just, hourly, just working hourly, project. And then it was like when someone brought that up to me, it like changed my mindset. And then when I implemented it, it was like, oh my gosh, this works. Like I'm able to value price and I'm able to, do retainers instead of projects. And so, yeah, how do we recognize when it's time to kind of move up to the next, like build that bridge or go down to go back up?
So that's an excellent question. And I detail it slightly depends on what the challenge that you're trying to overcome is. So give an example. So the way I view it is more a toolbox. And what I'm trying to give folks is a set of 8 tools that, depending on the hole in the wall or if it's a nail they're trying to pull out, they can decide which of the tools and they should use to try and attack or solve the problem that they have in front of them. So it's not sort of a recipe rather than a tool set. And by the way, this is exactly how engineers at these big corporations work. It's not a playbook, but a tool set that they use. And then depending on the local maximum they're trying to overcome, they'll use a different set of tools. But one point you mentioned, which I think is really integral, is how individuals sometimes realize that they might be at a local maximum. Most people don't even ask themselves this question. And I'll just give you like a really cute story, which was as part of researching for this book. I came across a story in, I think it was Indonesia, where they had monkeys that were coming and stealing the local villagers' food. And they tried to come up with a trap to how to catch these monkeys. And the trap that they built was a box that was fixed to the ground with a hole big enough for the monkey to put his hand in like this. And inside the hole, they had a nut, a treat for the monkey. And what happened was that the monkeys put their hands in, but once the monkeys made a fist to grab the nut, they couldn't get their hand back out of the hole. And the monkeys would come, get their hands into the hole, grab the nut, and would be totally stuck, sometimes for hours, screaming because they can't get away until the people came and were able to capture the monkeys. And the strange thing is, you think, you're laughing, what a weird, dumb animal. It should clearly drop the nut, meaning come down from the mountain that it's on. Right now it's on a mountain of stuck, going to be caught in a moment, but with a nut. Okay, so drop the nut. Now you're caught without a nut, and then go up the other mountain of not being caught. Much better than the stage before.
Right.
But the monkey was not intelligent enough to do that. Now, we're laughing here, but it's not just monkeys. Humans are doing this the whole time. And I'll give you an extreme case of this. This was leading up to the First World War. There were ships that was like the big sort of cutting edge technology. Who's got a better sort of shipbuilding capabilities? And I think that actually this is an example that I even only briefly wrote about in the book because we had some other ones as well. But here, the notion was that the more guns and armor that you have in the ship, the better the ship. So all countries around the world were putting just more guns and more armor around the ship and just saying, you know what, this is how I'm going to build a better and better and better ship. Along comes, I think the guy's name was Jackie Fisher, a British admiral, and he said, I've got a different idea. I'm going to have less guns, and I'm just going to place the guns and the armor strategically at the front and back of the ship, because that's where the ships typically get hit. And so I'm dropping the nut. I'm going to have fewer guns, but place them in a more strategic way so that you are faster, more accurate, or other areas, like in the monkey's case, freer. And for years, this new ship called the Dreadnought became the ultimate best ship of the sea. I think they even said, don't fear anything except for God and the Dreadnought. It was such a good ship. And so the point I'm trying to make is not necessarily just in the military or trying to capture monkeys is that sometimes the way we see the problem and the way we attack it or think about solving it is the biggest maximum, local maximum that we're stuck in.
Man, that is great. So let go of the nut. All this podcast has it brought you to a place where you need to just let go of that nut. Well, listen, Judah, thank you so much for hanging out and sharing your knowledge and your research and your wisdom on all this stuff. You know, if people wanted to connect with you, where's the best place to connect with you, to buy your book, and learn more and get unstuck?
So thank you. It's been great to be here. The book is on Amazon, How to Move Up When the Only Way is Down. And we have also a website, judahtaub.com. Both of them are great ways to reach out. Thank you very, very much. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, what about if someone could focus, we always like to leave everybody with a tip, like something that they can take with them into the next week. What is the one thing that you would maybe suggest or recommend to somebody starting Monday that they could, get out of their local maximum?
Okay, so I'd like to live like on Friday, but if it was Monday, I'd say ask yourself, what is the one nut that today is holding me back that I could potentially drop and move to a better place?
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, hey, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And listen, if you go to thefridayhabit.com, you can find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System that'll show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated working on your business instead of always in your business. You can send us an email or a voice message at hello@thefridayhabit.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. And remember to always live every day like it's Friday.